Hey, y'all. What's up? Let me see. All right, I think we're good. Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. All right. So it's been about a week since I went live last. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm really excited about today's live because this is all in response to your questions. So I'm really excited. Let me get this logo off the screen. Hey, I can't see who you are unless you give Ecamm Live permission for me to see your name. Oh, yeah, I took it off. Hopefully it's off now. Can you see me? It should be off. Do me a favor, if you want me to put your oh, you're welcome. If you want me to put your like what you have to say on the screen, you just have to give Ecamm Live permission. I hope you can hear me okay as well. All right, y'all. So today is good. And in fact, there were so many questions that I received that I'm going to break this up into a couple different live streams. So no worries about and if you didn't get to submit your question and you have questions, please always DM me or put it right here in this group. Oh, hey Kay. Okay, you can see me and I can see you. Yay. Awesome. See? There you go. All right. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, today I wanted to address one of the first questions I received, which is how can I build a profitable coaching business when I don't have time, right? Like we're wives, we're mothers. Some of us have full-time jobs or we have other side hustles or other things we're doing or working on. So how do we just get this started? And I was going back in my journals from this must have been 2019. So let me just take you back. So 2019, I still had my blog, which was called Husband Wife Doctor Life. So y'all have heard me talk about this, right? The way you start off on the road to purpose is not necessarily where you end up. And that is okay because purpose evolves. And really, as long as you put one foot in front of the other, God orders your steps. And if you really believe that, then you'll just kind of start walking and allow the changes to happen. So I was reading my journal and I was doing my blog and I was really excited at that time because I was getting consistent. So before August, it's July, August of 2019, I was not consistent with my blog. I would write a blog maybe once every 2-3 months, and that was a good block of time if I went 2-3 months in between blog posts. And it was really just because a couple of things. Number one, I didn't really know if anyone cared about what I was writing, and my focus was completely different back then. I was writing about how to juggle work and life, and I was writing with my husband, so it was just a completely different frame of reference. And I would check my Google Analytics and I had maybe 20 visitors a month, 30 visitors. So I was just is anybody even really reading this? So we'll come back to that because an audience of one is still an audience. So we'll come back to that in a second. But I was not consistent. But then I remember July, August of 2019 was when I got really, really on it in terms of getting my morning routine together and getting my just feeling more confident in what I was doing. So I started blogging consistently. And so I was reading my journal and it said things okay, I want to take this to the next level and monetize. And my ideas for monetization at that time were t-shirts and writing an ebook, because I do love to write. So it was t-shirts, writing an ebook. I think I said mugs, and I think that was it. And so obviously completely different than where I am now. But what I want to share with you guys, number one, how I got to this point in terms of being a coach, being able to charge premium pricing and feeling really confident in what I do. And How? Because when you're not confident in what you do, what you will do, and it's totally your unconscious mind. You guys hear me talk about your inner cave woman all the time. She will tell you things like, you don't have time, you don't have energy, you can't do this, right? And it's really all due to our own internal anxiety about whether or not we're able to do this thing, right? This thing that we've been called to do, this thing that we believe that is our, is part of our purpose. But we'll talk ourselves out of it, and we'll give ourselves reasons, right? Our cave woman, your unconscious mind, that part of your primitive brain that has been, that's tasked with trying to protect you from failure. She will present this to you and tell you, girl, you don't have time for this. You're overwhelmed. She'll make you overwhelm yourself and basically self-sabotage your way out of moving forward in your career and in your business. And so I have 4 tips for you, 4 strategies, the 4 ways that I was able to move past that. And once I did this, that's when the consistency came. And I will say the first part of being consistent is being consistent. And that's hard to hear because you're like, but how can I get consistent? And it's sort of like you have to just start taking messy first steps. And so we'll get to that another time, but I want to give you like 4 like actual strategies that I think can help you get to that place. Number 1 is recognize, I want to make sure. Can you hear me? Okay, you can hear and see me. Okay, good. Number 1, and if you're catching this on the replay, just type #replay so I know you're here. If you have questions, just let me know. Number 1, I say this all the time on my podcast. Your purpose is in the edges. What does that mean? The edges of the day. So I got this phrase from Toni Morrison. She was being interviewed years and years ago. And as you may know, she started as an author when she was like in her 40s, I believe. She was a single mom with children. So a couple of you guys in this group are single moms, and you've mentioned, the challenges, right, of being the only one caring for your child and working and just like having all of this going on. I can imagine, because I am not single. I'm not a single mom. And I still sometimes feel like it's too overwhelming, right? So a reporter asked Toni Morrison, how is it that you were able to write your first novel working a full-time job as a single mom? And Dr. Toni Morrison said, I write in the edges of the day. And when she said that, I was just like, first of all, it's just beautiful, like imagery, right? Like that's why she's Dr. Toni Morrison. But there is something like what we do, our cave woman, our unconscious mind will tell us that we need 4 hours of time, 5 hours of time. You need to block off that time to do your writing or to do your podcast or to do whatever it was, right? And what I noticed was when I heard that quote, and I remember doing a live video on Instagram about this quote, this was before Productive on Purpose, guys. This was husband, wife, Dr. Life days. I heard that quote and I immediately implemented it because she said I would spend 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 20 minutes after the kids went to bed. And you write for 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there after the kids are in bed, and you're a writer. And you end up with a book, right? Whereas if you don't, and you sort of, just aspire to have, these huge blocks of time that are not going to come, you're not a writer, you're not a blogger, or you're not a coach, right? If you don't force yourself to just sit down for that small amount of time. I felt like I prefer to do big blocks of time, right? And so if you can commit, and when I tell you I'm a witness to this, I am a witness. If you can say, you know what? Yeah, okay, I only have 15 minutes, but 15 minutes is really better than nothing, right? 15 minutes. Okay, so Kate, you literally just said You literally just said it exactly. 20 minutes is better than 0 minutes, right? And all of that adds up. And then it also adds to your identity, right? If you say, okay, I don't have an hour to record this podcast, but if I record the first 10 minutes, right? And then I record another 10 minutes, like you're a podcaster. If you write for 10 minutes a day, you're a writer. If you reach out to people in your community and offer your coaching services, that you're a coach, right? And so it really does help to remember the phrase that your purpose is in the edges of the day. You do not need, your cave woman will tell you that you need big blocks of time. She's a liar. It's not true. You don't need that. I am a witness. Now, yes, I got to the point that I woke up early and I have all that. I have that story, right? Like I do wake up early now, but I didn't start that way. In 2019, I could barely get out of bed in the morning. Now, I made the very first step I took was stopping my snoozing, keeping my promises to myself. And sometimes I would just sit down for 10 minutes and do that blog post. Then purpose evolves. What ended up happening was, okay, I would speak out my blog posts, right? Like while I'm driving, because I keep saying to myself, my purpose is in the edges. How can I maximize the edges? Oh, I have an hour commute. How about I speak out a blog post? And then what was so amazing that happened? I'm speaking out my blog post into my voice recorder on my phone. And then I was like, that's kind of like a podcast. I'm kind of doing a podcast every time I do this. Why don't I just start a podcast? And do you guys see the progression? Then I moved from my blog to saying I wanted to do a podcast, changed the name to Productive on Purpose. Those first few steps, when you actually show up and give God something to bless, he begins to bless you. When you give him something to bless, when he sees, right, you putting that one foot in front of the other, then he shows up and he orders our steps. If I didn't take those messy first steps to get consistent with my blog, I wouldn't be here today because I wouldn't have my podcast and Productive on Purpose and my coaching business, right? So it's really just about taking those messy first steps. Yes, your purpose is in the edge. Your purpose is in the edges. Just and write that somewhere. Put it on your computer, because your cave woman's gonna try to tell you, girl, don't even try to start that blog post, honey. It is too late. Excuse me. And it's just not true. It is just not true. So that's the first thing, is remembering that your purpose is in the edges. Here's a good verse, right? Ecclesiastes 11:4. I love this. He that observeth the wind shall not sow, and he that regardeth the clouds shall not reap. So another version of that is farmers who wait for perfect weather, right? Never sow, never plant, right? And if they're always looking at the clouds and oh man, it's not the right time, they'll never harvest anything. So there's never going to be a perfect time to write that book or to start that company. There's never going to be a perfect time. But if you take small, consistent steps forward, then I believe God shows up. And it's if we believe that, because this group, we're a community of women who believe in something bigger than ourselves, right? It's not just about us and our ability. When we start walking, we show God, that's actually faith, right? Faith without works is dead, because it's not faith unless you're in action. Because if you actually believe that God is going to show up and he's got you, then that means that you will take those steps knowing that he's got your back. But if you don't, right? If you don't take those steps, then we're essentially saying to God, I don't believe you. I read what you're saying in your word, but I don't believe it. And that's not what we want to say to God, right? We say that we trust and we say we believe him, and we sing those things in church and we read our Bible. We do all these things, And God's like, okay, well, go, like, start walking, like, do this thing. And we're like, oh no, it's not the right time. I'm not the right person. I don't have the right stuff. Like, we just start giving, just like Moses, all these excuses. I have a speech impediment and they're not going to believe me. And it's just like, and you can sort of see the frustration when you read that scripture in Exodus, where God is just like I am that I am. Like, tell them I am sent you. Like, what are we talking about here? Right? Like, you see that, but like, that's what we do to God, right? And God said to Moses, when Moses was like, okay, I can't do this. How are they gonna know that it was you that sent me? And God's like, what's in your hand? What's in your hand? He used something that Moses was walking around with for years, what was already in his hand, to be the thing that was the catalyst, right, for the miracles that he performed in Egypt. Like, God can use that little bit of time, that 10 minutes of time, right? God can use that. He can. Now, now we believe that. It's either if we say we believe that, we got to start showing up and doing that 15 minutes of time. That's what's in your hand. Use it. God can bless that. That 10 minutes after your kids go to bed, use that. God can bless that. Can you, if all you can do is wake up 15 minutes early and that's all you have in you, use that. Because God can bless you, can bless that if that's what's in your hand, right? So your purpose is in the edges. I kind of got a little preachy there. So, that happens. If you listen to my podcast, that happens. But I didn't even expect to say all of that. But like, it's so true. And God's like, start walking, sis. I got you. So that's number one. Your purpose is in the edges. And then I guess 1A, like under number one, is to use what's in your hand. Use what you already have. That little small bit, God can show up and bless that. Okay, let's give him something to bless. Y'all with me? Are y'all with me? Okay, let me know if you guys are with me. Like, give me some, speak to me, talk to me. All right, so number 2. On the, in terms of thinking like, how can I, as a busy mom, wife, or, what are all the different things we have going on? How can I start a coaching business? Okay. I see your thumbs up. Thank you. Right. Is to understand. So I was really preachy, like on my like high horse. And like, now I'm going to take it to something really, really practical. Many of us are putting out content. We have a YouTube channel, we have a blog, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, or we have a podcast. We have something, right? We have some mechanism for sharing content. And many of us are on this like content creation hamster wheel. And it's literally a hamster wheel of just like creating content. Okay, I need to create more content. I need to create more content. And that is probably leading to your overwhelm. Let me know if that is true for you, right? That just the content creation itself makes you feel overwhelmed. So then you think about throwing like an entire like, oh, now I have to like actually like coach people. Like on top of that, like I can't even keep my Instagram up to date. Like what, right? And it seems overwhelming. So how do you truth? I see. Okay. Yeah. Right. So how can you, and do me a favor, when you see this, like just give Ecamm, like way at the top, give Ecamm permission to use your name so I can put you on the screen. So the way to get out of that, and I had to learn this because I was creating content, but my content was not leading to anything. And then that was leaving me burnt out. And then it's like when I had to show up to actually I'm supposed to build what? It felt overwhelming. It felt too daunting. So here's just a really practical tip. So strategy number 2, you need to understand how your content relates to what you're offering. Okay, so that you're not just like creating all this content and just like, okay, I'm super burned out, like it's not even leading to anything. Your content should be discussing the value that you have to offer your future clients, your future students, the people that are going to be participating in your coaching program. And it's not about teaching them, right? Like everyone, honestly, there's so much information out there in the world that anything anyone wants to know, they can find it on Google. They can find it on YouTube University. I mean, honestly, right? Like there's very few things that are like where you're like developing something new, right? Like you might be, and I don't want to take that away from you, sis, right? But like for most of us, like we're sharing all this content, but what our community really wants is they want to know how we think about content, like how we think about the things that we're saying, right? Like what is your unique perspective? What is your like spin on it? Right? So when people come to me like all the time, like Dr. Kimmy, like how is it that like in your first year of coaching, you've been able to command premium rates? And so that live stream is coming tomorrow, right? But you've been able to command premium rates and have been able to, like every time you launch something, people say yes. It's because I don't come on my podcast or on here and just like spew information. Like nobody cares about my information. Like honestly, like I'm just not that important, right? Like nobody cares about like what I know, but they want to know how I think and how my unique perspective. Oh, see you, girl. I see you now. I see you. Hey. How my perspective is different from someone else's. Like that is how you develop thought leadership. And when you do that, you will notice that your content will lead to people in your inbox saying, hey, like starting to have conversations with you. And those conversations are what lead to sales, or what lead to you being able to show up and coach someone, right? Sharing your story, sharing your perspective, like your spin, like what is it that makes the way you do things different? So if your niche is, I don't know, business coaching, right? If your niche is business coaching, how are you different from every other business coach? If you just, show up and start talking about, Instagram and hashtag strategy. I mean, honestly, like things are so sophisticated now that like people can find that on their own. But if you show up and you're like, hashtags are garbage, you don't need them. Now my ears, I'm like, whoa, that's different from what I've heard, right? Like what makes you different? Like get off of the content hamster wheel by connecting your content with the unique way, your unique perspective, your unique story, the unique way that you can show up and serve, right? Because then your content becomes invigorating to you and to your audience, and then it leads to the conversations which lead to conversions, leads to sales, right? So try not to just like, okay, today I need to do an Instagram post because I haven't posted in a few days, and you just like take a quote from someone and throw it up. Take a quote, throw it up, and discuss the quote. Do you agree with the quote? Do you disagree with the quote? I do stuff like that all the time. Like I'll take quotes that other people say and I'm like, this is trash. Like this is not real, right? But that is thought leadership. And if you want to be a coach, you're essentially saying you want to be a thought leader. So like let's lead, right? So Kay, who's on this live video, or she was a few minutes ago, I'm not sure if she's still there, does this really well because I follow her on Facebook. She does this really, really well. She has a way of like taking like commonly held like notions and knowledge that other people say, and she'll just be like, nope, that's trash and here's why. And every time she posts that, I'm like, and I think about things differently because of that. Right? So that's what being a coach is, right? That's what being a coach is. That's like the initial steps. Like we don't want to just kind of regurgitate what other people are saying. And in the beginning, you kind of do some of that because like you're just kind of finding your footing and finding your stride. But like you want to get to the point where you have your own unique perspective. And somebody could say, you know what? I see that. Like I already like people, they tell me all the time, they're like, I know Dr. Kimmy would not agree with that. And I'm like, yeah, like, you know, because like you guys know now like how I think and how I perceive things differently from other people. So you want to be that kind of thought leader. And then it helps you when you're creating your content because you're not just like putting things out there and then like no one's talking back to you. That's demoralizing. That is, and it's learning, right? You're learning, right? So like take the lesson and like grow from it, right? But it can be frustrating when you're putting things out there into the world and you feel like you're not getting any like it's all about conversations. Like you want to start having two-way conversations with your community. All right, y'all. Are y'all still with me? Can y'all let me know? Talk to me. Y'all look quiet today. Okay, so the third way, right? So we're talking about, if you're just joining us, we're talking about how to coach, right? Even when we're like overwhelmed and we have a lot going on, right? So we talked about your purposes and the edges, so utilizing the edges of the day. We talked about getting off of the content creation hamster wheel by understanding how your content directly relates to your offer and how you're and becoming a thought leader. Oh, I see it now. Okay, sorry. Sometimes it's delayed. The comments are delayed. Sometimes I feel like I'm still learning. So how can I tell someone else to do? Okay, that's a whole live stream in and of itself. I have the exact answer for you, Kay. I have the exact answer for you. So in the spirit, you know what I'll do is if I have time, I'll circle back at the end of this one. If not, I may have that be its own dedicated live stream. I love how you just call me a thought leader. And I just asked, how do I become a thought leader? You know why you're a thought leader? Because you have a unique perspective. You have your own thoughts and ideas about things, and you have no problem being like, all of y'all are garbage. Let me tell you the right way, right? And like throwing rocks at the people who are like kind of just like going along with the norm. Like you show up and you're just like, every day I read your posts and you just have a new way of thinking about things. That's a thought leader. Now you may, and you may not perceive it, like, because we're our own worst critic, right? Because we all have a cave woman who's like, girl, don't nobody care what you said. Like, it's not true, right? Your community, they're watching you and they're reading it and they're thinking to themselves, man, every time, like, she makes me think about things differently. Right? And part of like why we don't see that as like, we don't see like our own greatness, right? Like we don't like, I mean, much less like Jesus said, like a prophet is not even honored in their own country, much less your own self. Like we don't see our own greatness. It's just really hard for us to see. But I assure you, if you continue that, right? If you continue that, then you will be able to do what we're going to get into the next step, right? Which is, do you have a framework, a methodology? You need to be able to develop a framework or a methodology, right? To get your people from point A to point B. So this goes back to being a thought leader. If you're a coach, right, you're walking people through a series of proven steps to get to a desired endpoint. Like that's what a coach does. Like if we think about a coach in sports, they provide the strategy. Yes, they provide cheerleading and like rah, 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 but it's also strategy, right? So you have to spend some time developing your own framework. And you're not going to do that, right? Like you're not going to be able to do that unless you already have a perspective on things and how are you different? Like, and being able to communicate that value. That is why I book clients, is because I am able to clearly communicate my value. Now, and I ain't perfect and I don't always get it right? And in the beginning, things were a little shaky, right? In terms of doing that. But I take the data that I get, like the failures, and I just learn from it and I just keep going, right? Because again, purpose evolves, right? Like my programs have changed dramatically over the past year, right? But I have a framework that I walk my students through. And if you don't sit down and spend some time like thinking about what that framework is, you'll feel all over the place and you'll feel like I can't coach anyone. Like, but when you have your own intellectual property that you have named, that is yours, that comes from up here, like even your cave woman can't say anything at that point. It's like I have my own intellectual property. Like what you talking about, right? Like I have my own frameworks. I like that allows me to confidently show up and serve. Now you can always change your frameworks, right? Like if something is like not working, you just edit it, right? But like there is, and I've experienced this. There's this notion that we have to get it right the first time. And your clients and your future students, they don't need your perfection. Like perfection is not, I say this all the time, perfection is not required on the road to purpose. It isn't. Your cave woman wants to tell you that perfection is required. It's not. It's not, right? So like, peeling back, like moving away from this need to like, oh, I have to get it just right the first time. Like who said that? Who said that? Is that true? Is that true? No, right? It's not. It's not true. So that's the thing. Like, but like spend some time like thinking about what your framework is. And that requires you to have that like thought leadership, right? So like that's why that was step 2 and then this is step 3, right? And then even to get off the content creation hamster wheel and be able to develop that thought leadership, like you can do that in the edges of the day. So I would, back in the day, and I'm not super proud about this, so like don't do this, but I would pull up my Instagram live, right? And I'd be driving to work and I'd be like recording my live videos. Now, again, not 100% safe, so don't do that, right? But like that 10 minutes of time, right? Like can you be doing a live video during that 10 minutes of time? Can you be writing a Facebook post or an Instagram post, right? So that's number 3. And then the last one is following someone else's framework, a proven process. Like, why is it? And it's not just like this happens all the time, right? Like, and I found myself falling victim to this as well. But for some reason, right, like we'll go to school for years and years. I mean, I went to school for, I don't even want to say how long, right? To be a physician. We'll go to school and we'll get certificates and we'll do all of this stuff, right, to have a career. But when it comes to having our own business or in having our own, like becoming an entrepreneur, somehow we then magically think that we can just like it should be innate and it should just be like, I should know how to do this. I should know how to do this, right? Somebody said that to me in my inbox the other day, like I should already know how to do this. And I'm like, why though? Is that true? Like in every other way we follow frameworks to get from point A to point B. If someone has a proven process to help you to do what it is you want to do, then you should follow that, like invest in that, right? Especially for those of us who want to be coaches, it's a little out of alignment to want to coach and not be coached yourself. If only for just the fact that when you have a coach, you can now see, okay, what do I like about my coach? What do I dislike about our relationship? Like, how would I do things differently? Oh, that the way she delivers her content is amazing during our coaching sessions. I want to model that in my own practice, right? So if only for that reason, but then also there's just something out of alignment. And I have found that every single time I invest more, and I invest heavily in my own professional development as a coach, and I invest heavily in that. And every single time I do that, I get a return. every time. Part of it, I believe a huge part of it is, again, me committing that money and that time to this is me saying to God, like, okay, these are my steps. And then he's like, okay, I got you, girl. Right. And you give him something to bless and he starts blessing you. So that's part of it. But then also, like, why do we feel like we have to do this on our own? Like, once I start following the framework of what someone else has done that has worked for them, it's revolutionary. Like, I talked about this on my podcast. It's called special unicorn syndrome. And it's something that a lot of us who are perfectionists and procrastinators have. We truly believe that, oh yeah, that framework and that like methodology, oh, I know that works for everyone. And I know it worked for like that other person, but that would never work for me because I'm special and I'm different, right? Like I've literally said those words before. It's not just you. I've said that. I'm like, yeah, but, I have unique, like, things about, I have a unique, like, there's like little quirks. Like, I just don't know that this would work for me in my own special situation. And it's like, sis, like, this is what I had to tell my cave woman. You're not that special. Like, you're not that unique, right? Like, you're not a special unicorn. If it has worked, and I do this all the time when it comes to like fitness stuff, because I talk a good game when it comes to coaching and all of that. But when it comes to like fitness and nutrition, I am always like, I have to tweak the plan a little bit because I have to make it fit my own individual needs. And it's like, really? Do you really have to do that? Or are you self-sabotaging? Special unicorn syndrome is self-sabotage. Talking yourself out of following someone else's process, right? Because you're special and unique is self-sabotage. It's just your cave woman trying to like shut you down, right? Because it's like, is that true? No, right? So at least try to follow what someone else has done. If they have a proven process, follow it. And then if it doesn't work, you can kind of like, regroup. And I'm just seeing this comment from Kay. True. How can you be a coach and not be coached yourself? I don't understand. I mean, I don't get it. Honestly, I think it's out of alignment. And I think energetically, and this is not like woo-woo stuff, like energetically, you are not going to show up as your best self because you even know that's out of alignment, right? So that like uncertainty you feel, right? Like when you're on a sales call or when you're posting your content or like doing your Facebook Live or whatever, you're not going to show up confidently because you perceive the misalignment, or at least your unconscious mind does, even if you don't, right? So whenever I invest, I immediately see a return on the investment. I show up differently. When it's just energetically, like sales is an energy exchange, and you're just not gonna show up as your best self. You're just not. You're not. So you have to always, and then always, also it's just like, how do you know, I don't believe necessarily that you have to get a coaching certification to coach. I don't believe that. Some of the best coaches I've ever had are not certified in coaching. But what I'm looking for is their process. And if their process is documented, and if their process is proven, and if it is, then I'm going to rock with you. The certification and whatnot is icing on the cake. And some people may desire that and may want that. But I found that that's also a way to hold ourselves back, right? Like I'm not going to start unless I get certified. And it's like, if you have achieved a transformation for yourself or someone else, then you're qualified to coach. If you have a documented way that you can get someone from point A to point B, then you're qualified. And so it's like, how do you do that if you've never gone through someone else's process? It's just, you're not going to show up in the exact same way that you would if you were like energetically aligned. So that's just what I truly believe. And I've seen it in my, like when I'm like in between coaches, because I'm like shopping around trying to figure out the right coach, like I will always have a coach. Okay. Like one thing you don't have to worry about with me, I will always have a coach because I just see how it just like changes things. Kay says, love that point. You're welcome. That's awesome. So that's it. That's all. That I did not expect to be on here for so long. I really didn't. So the 4 things, right? So we talked about the 4 like things you can do when you're feeling like I'm super overwhelmed. I don't really know. Like, can I do this? Can I start this? Recognizing your purposes and the edges. So utilizing those edges of the day, right? The little like crusts of time that you would normally throw away to like Instagram or Facebook or right. Those little bits of time, like utilizing those, right? Use what is in your hand. Use what is in your hand. That's the first thing. The second thing is understand how your content relates to your offer. Like get off that constant content like creation hamster wheel and start to show up and become a thought leader, right? Like that's going to energize you. That's going to lead to those conversations, which lead to conversions. So that's number 2. Did I really just, yeah, I was thinking ahead. My bad. Okay. Number 3, build your coaching framework. Like take that thought leadership, build that into a coaching framework. That is going to allow you, like when I talk about like showing up energetically, like when you have your own framework, it's like your K woman can't tell you nothing. Like I have a framework, sis. I have intellectual property. Okay. And that's just going to allow you to show up authentically. And also like when I prepare for a live stream, it takes me like 5 minutes to prepare because I have a framework and I have a methodology. Like I can prepare, I can write notes in my planner, like right here. Oh, this is what I'm going to talk about on my live stream, and then just show up and talk because I've already been building this, right? So that's one way that like you can maximize your time. If I know I only have 30 minutes for a live stream, but then I take all 30 minutes to prepare for that live stream because I haven't developed my own thought leadership, then that it's not going to work, right? So like it like all builds on each other, right? Like recognize your purposes and the edges, become a thought leader, like share your unique perspective, build out that framework so that you, when you do show up and your time is limited, you can still like kind of spew like off the cuff, like I'm doing. Like I didn't write any of this down. I have 4 points here, right? That took me 5 minutes to brainstorm because I've already developed that thought leadership, right? And then the 4th is like follow a proven process. Like you cannot show up energetically and say you're coaching others if you're not being coached. Like I just firmly believe that. So I hope that was helpful. You guys let me know when you watch this. I know most of you will watch this on the replay. Just put hashtag replay if you have questions, or if you're just like, what are you talking about, Dr. Kimmy? You can always put them here and I'll come back, or you can shoot me a DM. Now, if you would like to hear more about how I can help you do this, right? Because again, we talk about following a framework. If you would like information about that, about my framework and what I do. So I help Christian professional women get unstuck and utilize biblical principles and the power of their unique story. So we talked about that last week, about how Jesus used parables, right, to help teach that transformation. If you would like some information on how I do that, right, so I would help you develop, package, position, and launch your high ticket coaching program. Definitely let me know. Shoot me a DM or put it here in the chat and I got you, but my DMs are completely open, so I will receive it. You can also, if you're like ready, if you're just like, I'm ready, I want this, I need this, go to productivepurpose.com, productivepurpose.com/apply. It is an application. So my program is called Purposed to Profit. It's a 5-month coaching program. So 12 weeks of coaching and then 2 months of implementation support. We start on March 17th and you will learn how to develop, package, position, and launch your coaching program using the power of biblical principles and your story. So you get to the point where your story does the selling for you. and you have your own intellectual property, like that framework we talked about, like I help you actually build that, right? And so that you can show up for your community, energetically and serve them, right? And so this is available to you. And not only is it available, like this, like when I talked about number 2, let me, y'all know, sometimes I get a little preachy. I feel a preaching moment coming on. We as women of God, right? As women of faith. Oh, I see Kay's. Girl, I love when you guys do this. Thank you for typing that out. Especially for people who are gonna watch. Dr. Kimmy will help with this. Yes, I can. Right, but here, let me preach a little bit before I get off of this live stream, right? If we are women of faith, right? We are multi-purposed, multifaceted women, right? We have a lot going on. We're wives, we're moms, we have jobs, we have all of this stuff going on, right? I believe that we should not be doing things just to do them. I believe, and you guys, if you've been in my community a while, you've heard me say this. Not only can we have profitable businesses, we should, right? Because if we don't have a profitable business, then that means all this time we're spending on social media and creating content and doing all the things is really just taking away from the other aspects of our life that we're purposed to do as well, like our motherhood and our career, and right? If we have essentially nothing to show for it, right? And I don't want that. And I don't believe God wants that either. When I think of the Proverbs 31 woman, I never used to like reading Proverbs 31 because I felt less than. I felt like I can't do all of that stuff, right? But what she did, right, was that she served her family, right? Had her people to help her out, right? So yes, you can hire a cleaning lady. That's another thing. You don't have to do everything by yourself, right? She didn't. She had servant girls. She had maid servants. She had people who were helping her. So when we look at her, I used to look at her and be like, oh, yeah, she I could never be like the Proverbs 31 woman. She had help. She wasn't doing all of this alone, right? And then she had a profitable business. Y'all know I can never remember scripture, so I'm about to pull it up. Hold on. If you're still here, and it's okay if you have to go, because this is just me preaching, so I understand. But I'm about to pull it up. Hold on. So she had a profitable business, right? It says, so she gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household, right? And plan the day's work for her servant girls. So she wasn't doing this alone. That's number 1. Number 2, right? Now that she has her house taken care of and she has her household, and now that she has her servant girls doing the other stuff, right? She goes to inspect a field and buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. That's 16, right? So she's doing all this stuff. And again, you're looking and you're like, okay, so she a boss. She got some money. That's cool, right? She's energetic and strong. She's a hard worker. Okay, that's fine. 18, she makes sure her dealings are profitable. Why? Because if she is not making sure her dealings are profitable, then all it's doing is taking away from the other things in her life where she's also purposed to serve. So that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this. When I tell you guys, you should have a profitable business, what you're doing should be profitable. That's why. Because otherwise, am I contributing to my family? And then in verse 20, she extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arms to the needy. She's able to do that because of her profitable business. Right? So it's when I have a profitable business, now I can do all of these things that I've always wanted to do. I can show up and extend a helping hand to the poor. then I can like have no fear of the winter from my household because everyone has their warm clothes, like all of that stuff. It kind of like stems from the profitable business and then branches out from there. That's one of the reasons I'm super proud, super passionate about this and like talking about this to women of faith. So anyway, that was just me on my preaching high horse. Y'all know how I get. But anyway, if you would like to apply for my program, like I said, my next cycle starts on March 17th. This is my Purpose to Profit program. March 17th, just go to productivepurpose.com/apply. I'll go ahead and I'll type that in the comments when I come back. Shout out to one of my clients who is in this group who just secured her very first high ticket coaching. Let me see. Oh, wait, I'm supposed to have sound effects. Oh, my sound effects are not loading. Boo. I wanted to have some clapping sound effects for her, but this is me clapping for you. I'm super proud. Like, you can do this too. This is not something that like only special people do. Like, this is available to you. All right, y'all. I got to go. I have a meeting at 1, but I love you. Thank you for being in this group. Feel free to ask any questions. If there's a question you have, I will address it in a live stream. And tomorrow, the topic we're going to talk about is another question that was submitted by a member of the collective, which was, but how do I charge premium prices for what I do when I am new? And it kind of goes along with Kay's question. So Kay said, she said, sometimes I feel like I'm still learning. So how can I tell someone else what to do? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. All right, ladies, have a blessed day. Peace and love. Bye.